Hello, everybody. Today, we're going to continue our conversation about the Inca real quick. And as you can tell, more specifically, we're going to talk about the famous Incan site, Machu Picchu. We're going to work together on this thing today, but your job for me is that we're going to go through these questions together, and you're going to have to submit to me the answers. Okay, so the only place you can find the answers is right here in this conversation we're about to have. Okay, there's no website I'm going to link you all to. There's no YouTube video. It's just us having this conversation right now. Okay, so to start out here, let's talk about what Machu Picchu is. Real quick here, you can see a picture of Machu Picchu, and what you see, obviously, in the background and kind of right here in the midground is you see the mountains, these Andes mountains. But then you also notice right here in the forward that you have some form of a community built or some form of civilization. So obviously, you can tell that this has been altered by the Inca. Obviously, this didn't just show up naturally. And you can also tell some things that we've talked about before, like this terrace farming, which would have been happening on these little stair steps. So the deal with Machu Picchu is a lot of people, historians included, don't necessarily agree on what its purpose was, but most people believe that it was not necessarily a city, it was not necessarily a town. It was actually more likely a palace or different place for the royalty of the Inca, especially the emperor, to kind of get away from everything. So, especially if the empire was attacked or different things were causing problems, the Inca emperor could kind of hide away up here, or he could just kind of be away from all of the craziness. But it's a pretty unique place because, again, they don't necessarily know that 100%. There's other historians that think it actually could have been a small community because obviously you can see there's several different buildings here and different places where people could live. But the jury's still out on what the actual purpose was. But in any case, obviously, it's an amazing looking place. It's quite beautiful, and a lot of people like to visit it every year to check it out. So that's what our topic of conversation is today: is these issues that have been happening with tourism. Okay, and what we're going to do is we'll just walk through each of these questions. You can pause at any time if you want to write down the question to have it ahead of time, or if you want to just leave it right here on the screen. But the answers definitely I want to have in full capacity when you guys submit to me. Okay, so first off, let's talk about question number one. What is the problem facing Machu Picchu? Well, as you can see in this second picture right here, there's some evidence of what we're about to talk about. But one of the biggest problems that has been facing Machu Picchu is that there are way too many tourists that want to visit it every year. And those tourists walking around, as you can see in the picture down here, is causing a little bit of damage. Okay, it has been causing damage maybe to the walking paths. Or you can even see in this image, there's people walking up on different buildings or like near the different sites. So it's not just people walking down here like on a path. It's a lot of people just kind of walking all over different places. There's a guy going up the stairs here. There's people all sitting down here. There's people up on the top part, as you can see. So the main problem is again that there are too many tourists, and some of those tourists are causing damage, most likely unintentionally, but still causing damage in the likeliness. Okay, so number two here, how is Peru's government trying to fix it? Now he said this is located in the Andes Mountains in the modern day country of Peru. So how is Peru's government trying to fix it? Well, what they're trying to do to fix it is they are selling tickets, and they're selling tickets for like a morning session and an evening session. So basically, they are selling a certain number of tickets every day, and you have to basically pay for the morning session and go up there in the morning or the afternoon session. And if you want to stay up there all day, you actually have to purchase both tickets. So they're not saying you can't do that. They're not saying you can't be up there all day, but you would have to basically buy the morning and the afternoon ticket together. Okay. So that obviously is limiting the number of people that can be up there at any one time. You're still going to have tour groups going up there and everything else, but those tour groups, again, are responsible for purchasing their own tickets. So that's how they're kind of dividing up the numbers and limiting the numbers of people that can be up there in the first place. Okay, number three, how is Machu Picchu different from other historical sites like the Roman Colosseum? Okay, well, obviously, there's a lot of differences about Machu Picchu. Okay, obviously, it looks quite different and it's up in the mountains, and that all goes without saying. But as far as our concern with these tourist issues, how is Machu Picchu different from a place like the Roman Colosseum? The most obvious difference is that they never built this site to house a lot of people, right? It was not meant for heavy traffic or heavy foot traffic, as they call it, right? Places like the Roman Colosseum, they were built for many, many people to visit, almost like a stadium, right? Many spectators would be there, or maybe it was built in the city with a lot of solid, like sidewalks or walking paths or seats. But Machu Picchu is different from those sites because it was never built like that. As I said before, if anything, it was built as just kind of like a palace or a royal site for the emperor to live in kind of temporarily throughout the year. So it was never meant for many visitors at all. Okay, and it definitely, as you guys can see, there's not a whole lot of established walking area. These people down here are clearly walking in one of the flat areas between the buildings. So obviously, kind of right in this section or right over in this section. But it is definitely not built with all kinds of sidewalks or different walking paths. And it's definitely not meant for lots of people to be there walking around. All right, number 4 and 5. What are some positives of this solution? Now, you can think of some on your own, but we can talk about a few. What are positives of selling tickets and having a certain amount, limited amount of people go up to Machu Picchu? Okay, well, the first one obviously is there's less crowding, right? One positive is there's less people up there, smaller crowds, and obviously that helps in a lot of different ways. When you are visiting, you won't feel as crowded, right? You'll actually get to see more of it, or it'll look a lot more like this, than having all kinds of different people all over the place. And obviously, the obvious positive is that the site is now more protected. Obviously, with less people visiting every year and less people walking around at any one time, there's less of a possibility for damages to occur. So that's obviously some of the positives that go with this solution. What are some of the negatives of this solution? And you wouldn't think that there's a whole lot of negatives because there really aren't, but there are some. So one of them is obviously less people do get to see it. Okay, with less people going up there, less tourists get to actually see Machu Picchu. I know for many of us, that's not really that bad of a negative, but at least it is a negative for some. And the one that people actually are a little concerned about is for the people of Peru, for the tour guides, for the tour companies, they're making less money. Okay, now that might be a small price to pay because a lot of people have argued, well, if Machu Picchu has a bunch of different visitors and it eventually gets messed up, then people aren't going to want to visit it anyway, right? If people are walking around it and they just tear it all up, it won't be as popular for tourists to go visit. So there will be no money instead of less money. But there are people that think that that is a negative because obviously with less tourists, there's less money going around, right? Number 6, this is up to you all. Okay, I'm going to leave this to you all. But the last question says, overall, which side do you agree with more and why? So, do you agree with the people that feel like the numbers should be limited and that tickets should be sold? Is that who you agree with? Or is it the people for number 5 who think that no, really, we would probably be just fine. Let whoever go up there want to go up there at any time of the day. Obviously, it's lasted this long, right? People have been going up there since kind of the mid 1900s, all right, when this place was rediscovered. It actually was left abandoned in the early 1500s, and the jungle kind of reclaimed it. The jungle just kind of grew up over it, and kind of some local people remembered it was up there, but a lot of people were just like, oh, it's that thing that's up in the mountains. And until an American explorer in 1911 rediscovered it, let's just say, and they cleared away all the vegetation, a lot of people didn't know about it. So there's some of those people for number 5 that think, hey, it's lasted this long. People have been visiting since the mid 1900s. So we should just kind of let people do what they want to do. All right, that's up to you. That's your overall opinion. And why, obviously, is you got to give me your reason. So if you say I agree with the people that limit it, or I agree with the people that think anybody should get to go, tell me specifically why. Okay. So as I said before, for you all's actual assignment today, go ahead and submit to me the answers. Right? Submit to me the answers specifically. Obviously, a complete sentence for one of these at minimum is going to be best practice. Okay. And then, like always, if you wrote this on notebook paper, just send me a shot of that. If you're going to do it on Google Doc, that's fine too. Okay, but make sure you actually answer the question that is being posed and not just write a random sentence about Machu Picchu. Okay. All right. As always, I hope you all are staying safe and hanging in there. Obviously, today's Friday, so you're going to hopefully have a good weekend. And we're going to continue this conversation for a few more days talking about the Maya and the Aztec and the Inca. And then we're going to wrap it up before break. All right. So, again, see y'all very soon and be well.